You're listening to Whoa! Potluck.
Welcome to Marvel Makeup. I'm Quincy.
And I'm Kay, and this is a podcast where I teach Quincy a little bit about Marvel.
And I teach Kay a little bit about makeup.
Watch out, there are MCU spoilers ahead.
Spoiler alert. Woo.
And today, our guest is an actress and improviser. You can see her work in Black Monday and Adam Ruins Everything.
She co-hosts the Korean drama podcast, which, like us, is part of the Potluck Podcast Collective, and performs with improv teams Voltron and with me and Kay and the rest of our brothers on Number One Sun. Please welcome Kim Cooper.
Kim Cooper.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for having me back.
Yes, you had specifically said, like, when you guys do Infinity War, feel free to have me back. So we did.
Which is so funny because, like, I'm going to get right into it. Like, when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're like, I changed my mind. I don't want to pod.
I remember like leaving the theater and having such a strong opinion about it and being like, holy shit, this was incredible. And like, I rewatched it and I was like, yeah, this is good. But like, we'll get into it.
Yeah, definitely.
A bit surprised. I was like, oh damn,
Wait, okay, question. No, should we put a pin in it? Because I have questions about this change in opinion.
Let's hold off for just a second while we do just some overall top of the podcast info. Avengers Infinity War came out on April 23rd, 2018. It was directed by Anthony Giarrusso, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and all four of them had collaborated before on The Winter Soldier and Civil War. So they were embedded in the MCU already. So they were the ones that were taking it into this final chapter of what they call the Infinity Saga. A few things about the 2018, some highlights. Chloe Kim won the gold medal at the Winter Olympics.
Fighting.
Yeah. I remember watching that and I'm being like, oh, she's so cool. She can fly. And the reboot of Queer Eye came out that year.
Oh,
which I really enjoyed.
Oh my God. Love it.
Yeah. I talk about like, a team-ups coming back together. And then
I cry every single episode.
They're so good.
They're so good.
They're pretty good. And I loved how they took it that next step of just like, this is more about, people coexisting.
Everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't just like straight guys. It was also, gay guys. It was straight women. So they were expanding who they were helping. And then a couple other weird tidbits, like IHOP changed their name to IHOB for a second. Do you guys remember that?
That was so weird. Was that a prank?
It was like a PR stunt because they're like, we're gonna emphasize our burgers from now on, and people were like, what? Why? And they're just like, it's just for a little while, and then they went back to IHOP. What was that?
It was so weird.
Yeah, I remember that, and then I forgot that they did that.
Yeah, and most people did. When I looked it up, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. The store chain Toys R Us closed that year, which I thought was interesting. I don't know about you, but going to Toys R Us, our stores, you never bought anything. You just you just went around, looked at the toys, and like played with whatever was available in the aisles, and then you just left. So yeah, almost like it was more of an amusement park than it was kind of like a store.
Facts.
And then a couple challenges happened that year, internet challenges, such as the Tide Pod challenge, which was horrible. People should not eat Tide Pods. And I don't know why they had to do it.
You said that, Kay. We should not be eating Tide Pods.
I mean, I don't know why people had to figure it out by doing it. You're just like, no, it's literally like condensed soap. Just like, don't eat it. Don't eat it,
I think that not everything has like an amount of logic behind it.
Yeah, I guess people were just like, we're bored. Let's eat this swirly soap stuff. And the other big challenge that year was the fluff challenge. That was the thing where people were putting their blankets up over themselves and then like
for the
running
dog?
away in front of the pets.
Yeah.
And then running away. Did you guys do that? I know both of you guys have pets.
I am too clumsy.
I can't imagine my cat wouldn't care literally at all.
Yeah, I feel like most of the videos had dogs kind of freak out about it. Cats are just like, meh.
Yeah, my dog looked at me like I was stupid, so I stopped.
So you did try it.
I know I did, and it just I'm too clumsy. Like I just can't execute. It's too much coordination.
The magic didn't work.
No.
No. So just a couple tidbits about 2018 to get our minds into that year. But yes, let's dive into our movie for today, Avengers: Infinity War. First
Kim,
half.
what was your hot take?
Yes.
Or
Kim.
what was your whole thing about it? What changed?
I mean, like, okay, so here we go. So
Getting on the soapbox.
Yeah, let me get in here. When I saw it the first time, okay, first of all, where does this come out in relation to the other, like what are the movies before and after this?
Right before this was Black Panther.
Okay.
And then right after this is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And then Endgame.
And then Captain Marvel happens and then Endgame. So there are 2 more movies before Endgame.
Okay, got it. I feel like maybe I was influenced by what I took away from Black Panther, which was like, that's such like a wonderful movie that has such rich characters. And like, I thought it was so incredible what they did, what Ryan Coogler and what Michael B. Jordan and everybody did with Killmonger and in like making Killmonger be this really like fleshed out character. And like, you really understand where he's coming from. Like he is the quote villain of that movie, but he has like this really strong ethos and you really like, you're like, yeah, okay. Like, I know we're supposed to be on like T'Challa and like Wakanda's side here, but like, I also see where this guy is coming from. And so I remember leaving Infinity War and being like, you know what? I don't agree with Thanos, but I can see where he's coming from. And like, I did still feel a little bit of that this time, but like much less. I was like, okay. I still see where he's coming from, but like, I didn't, but I think the biggest thing that I felt this time that I didn't feel initially when I watched it, which I saw this in theater. So that was, 3 years ago now, was that they introduce so many characters in these like big Avengers movies that it was like that. I was like, this keeps going on and on. Like the like intros, like all the, like, it's like, okay, we're getting into it now with like Doctor Strange. Okay. Now here comes like, I wrote all of them down. It was like, we're getting into it. Yeah. We're getting into it with Thor and Loki. Okay. Here's Doctor Strange. Okay, now here's Tony. Now here's Bruce. Now here's Spider-Man. Now are the Guardians. Like, and it just goes on for so long. And I was like, this is a lot of intros. I mean, and
that was half the movie.
Yeah.
Like we got to half the movie with our watch along and Kay goes, done. And I was like, wait, we just got everyone
that's
together.
Like, yeah, that's truly like act 1 of like a 5-act movie. I don't know what act structure, writing structure they use for these, but it's truly like act 1. And like, we're already a good hour into this 2 hour, 30 minutes.
It was fun. But then when Kay stopped it, I was like, wait, we can't stop it right now.
It's just so much. I was like, can't they all like, I don't know, be at Target at the same time? Like, or you got, like
everyone goes to Target.
Condense this just like a little bit more. And then my other thought was, and this wasn't like a controversial thing, but more of like, I'm curious what both of you have to think, Quincy, because I know that this is your first watch of these movies, and Kay, because I know that you're very well versed. But I was like, was it always this much like in space?
Yeah. Yes. Well, because Thanos comes from space and he is trying to, cleanse the universe.
Where did Thanos first show up, though?
So he's originally from Titan.
I think she means in the MCU, I think.
Yeah. In the MC, yeah. What movie does he first show up?
Okay, so in the movies, I believe his first presence is in one of the after credits of Avengers, where Loki comes down and he's like, pretty much Thanos gave him that army to attack New York in Avengers. So when Loki fails at the very end of Avengers, there's this after credit where like his kind of like henchmen, the Avengers, one of the Thanos's henchmen is kind of like the event, Earth has these heroes now, to court them, to battle them is to court death. And then you see this figure just kind of like turn around and look at him and smile. So that's the introduction.
Okay, I vaguely remember seeing that.
And then I think he's first mentioned in the first Guardians.
Yeah, well, he's mentioned heavily. The first Guardians because Gamora is his daughter.
Right. And I've seen Guardians, and so I know that those take place in space. But this just like I was like, oh, I don't remember like seeing this much like space stuff.
Interesting. Okay,
it's so interesting when you say it like space. You're like, wow, it is a lot of space. But if it's like other worlds, then it's like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, and this is the other question that I had watching it this time around is like. So does the Marvel universe exist in a parallel universe to ours, or is it like in the future of our same universe?
It's technically supposed to be our universe.
Kind of like technically like if Marvel superheroes existed in our world today. Yes. This is what it would look like.
Oh, like right now.
Yeah. I mean, yes. The thing is, Stan Lee's kind of philosophy was that these are heroes that should, exist in our world. So like they exist in the world that exists right outside your window. So you look outside your window and that's the world you see. That's the world that they live in as well.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Which is different from like, say, DC properties where they kind of create their own, cities. There's like Gotham City, there's Metropolis.
Right.
Whereas, they exist in New York, they exist in San Francisco, in our actual world.
Yeah. I will say, Kim, to your comment about the space thing, my thing was like, wow, we got to space really fast. We went from like humans being not in space because you're like, okay, Thor, he's not from here. Guardians of the Galaxy, we're not from here. And then I think it was just all of a sudden Tony Stark's in space. And then breathing, this was a thing in the watch along, Kay, but Kim, I was like, how is everyone breathing here? No one has oxygen tanks.
And Tony gives Spider-Man Peter that suit so he can breathe. But I was like, how is he like breathe? Like, where's the oxygen tank in this thing? Like, how's he breathing?
The technology is that good. It's just like the mask is on and they can breathe.
I guess so.
Yeah, those are those little kind of like logic loopholes that you're just like, okay, well, like even on Titan, they're not wearing their masks the whole time. What? Sorry,
just with what you said about they're not wearing their masks.
They're not, and nobody in this
is wearing their masks.
Social distancing. This is like truly crazy.
It was 2018, guys. It was 2018.
Irresponsible.
A different world.
But yeah, but they could still like breathe on Titan.
Yeah.
And there's those kind of like logic steps of like, oh, well, if they are able to breathe, maybe that atmosphere is they can breathe oxygen. It's the same, similar as Earth. But I will say, I will agree. There's a lot of characters and I've always been interested in people who saw it for the first time with not as many of the as background with seeing the previous movies. And if it was overwhelming, if you're just like, who, why, all these people. Mm-hmm. So do you think you felt that way initially when you saw it as well as now, or just the second time you watched it, it was more apparent to you?
I mean, I'm guessing that I thought that the first time that I saw it too, but I have seen like other Marvel movies before this one. And Thor Ragnarok came out like pretty soon before this too.
Right. It was the one right before Black Panther. So
and I loved Thor Ragnarok and I loved Black Panther. So I think that but I think that those like standalone movies are so much easier to watch, because even if you have seen an Avengers movie before, it's just so many damn people. It's like so much. And like, but here's the thing is like, so I've seen Thor Ragnarok, I've seen Black Panther, I've seen Spider-Man, but I haven't seen like any of the Doctor Strange movies. I think I said this the last time I was on, like, I don't remember, like I've seen an Iron Man, but I have absolutely no recollection of it. Like, so I've never seen any of the Captain America or any of the like standalone movie, like Winter Soldier or whatever. Like I haven't seen any of those movies. So I'm not familiar with all of the characters. I've never seen I've never seen like a Black Widow, like movie or like, so like a lot of these characters I only know within like the Avengers
movies. Well, you know, that makes sense, because those are the ones that have most of them in them at the same time. And for me personally, the Avengers movies, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians, Civil War, those are all my favorites because they have so many characters and because they bring all of these characters together. I will say though, Quincy, it surprises me you thinking like, oh, they got to space so fast, because we're near the end of phase 3. So you still feel like, you know, we didn't spend enough time on kind of like the earthbound stories? That still feels like, oh, or are you saying like in the movie, you're just like, they didn't spend that much time on Earth and they were in space?
In the movie, it felt like all of a sudden, like Tony was in space.
Okay.
And like, I know he was like dealing with Thanos, but it was like, wait a minute, guys, we're in space now.
Yeah.
And like, no one was like, okay, wait, it just like happened. I mean, maybe in the next movie, they'll deal with like the mental and, you know, physical strain of like having gone to space like he did in Iron Man 2 and 3. But it just was like, oh, wait, this is a huge deal. But I guess Thanos was a bigger deal.
Yeah. I guess the idea of like, this is our mission, we're on it, kind of outweighed the fact of like, oh, we're in space now. Though kind of like Spider-Man kind of had that kind of feel of just like, you know, oh, this is what we're doing now. And, you know, he's kind of having to deal with the kind of overwhelmingness of it. Like the fact that he was just like, you know, I'm sorry if someone puts eggs in me. I don't want to, and then I attack you. That was
I think
kind
it was
of
just
his role.
the earth-boundedness. Like, you know, we understand Thor, aliens coming, but, you know, the reversal of like a human being in space on a Martian planet. I guess it's just, I don't know. It was like, whoa, we're in space, fighting monsters, and like, let's deal with this.
How are they breathing? I guess that leap for you is just like, oh, they're not prepared, but then they would just were because of the suits, I guess. Well, you know, interesting takes. I will say, you know, it is a massive movie, so there is that whole kind of like lead up of them coming together. Like we said, like in our watch along, we split it up in half. So the first half is one episode. The second half is the second episode.
The whole thing through.
Mm-hmm. I just watched it like an hour ago. I was just like watching it. It was like
powered through.
It was like watching 5 episods of TV, just like back to back to back. Like,
yeah, that's what movies kind of are.
A mini series. That's what the Marvel movies are.
Like Quincy always says, the longest TV show
in most history. Expensive TV show. It's like a long ass TV show.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, so like, yeah, remember when we took our break, Quincy was just like, wait, that it's just getting started. I was like, we're an hour in, but she was right. Like that was when kind of everyone had finally gotten into the point where they're like, okay, now we're going to dig into the actual final conflicts. But again, this is part of an epic saga. So bringing all these people together, I feel like they had an interesting task, because you're dealing with people who have come in knowing where all these characters have come from, and then people who don't and are just like, you know, they kind of need to intro them each a little bit, you know, before they get into like the meat of like, okay, and we're actually fighting Thanos. And so,
it was almost like an origin story within a movie.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I feel like they kind of had to do that is because technically it's like, it's not the journey of the Avengers that's actually the center of the story. It's Thanos's journey. So it's kind of
that is interesting.
That's an
Thanos
interesting way to
really
put
is the main character. And maybe that's why like I do find myself at times like seeing his point of view, even though he's like a horrible villain, but he's just like, listen, the planets are running out of resources, and there's too many people for the lack of resources. The solution is to get rid of half the people.
Yep.
And he's
I
like,
appreciate his efficiency,
right?
like
And
the
he's
math
like,
logic.
the math logic, and he's like, listen, like, I'm not like, it's randomized. Like, I'm going to snap my fingers. It's completely randomized. It's not based on like, if you're rich or poor or whatever. And like, I again, like, I'm like, I know you're wrong, but like, I'm like, I can see how to him, he's like, yes, this is right. Or like when he like throws Gamora off the cliff to get the
Soul Stone.
The Soul Stone. Like,
Did you
and he's
believe
like,
that was a real sacrifice, Kim?
what?
Did you believe Gamora's sacrifice was a sacrifice for him?
I think it was, but I think also that Thanos is so much of like he's just like a brick wall. Like he's just like like these analogies don't match up, but he's like just like plowing through stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's so like huge and like imposing, and like he has all these powers and stuff like that. So it's like so used to getting what he wants. I do wish like we didn't see quite enough of his backstory with Gamora though, to be able to know definitively like, oh, was he like faking these tears so that the like spirits around like on this planet would like would perceive that he was sad about the sacrifice, right? Because that's what the skull face, that guy's called?
Red Skull.
Red Skull. That's what he says, right? He's like, you have to make a sacrifice because the spirits here want to make sure that you know what the Soul Stone is worth.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's also like, well, did he really? Because he could have just been like trying to con the spirits, right? And like faking the crying.
I mean, I believed it. I think, yes, the thing is, again, the movie is so massive that there could have been so many scenes where you dig into his relationship and his background more. But because of that, they just gave you like the minimal amount to be like, to kind of establish the relationship. And I will say that, so I rewatched it after our watch along, but I rewatched it with the commentary because I have the Blu-ray. And that was one of the things that they did talk about, how like there had been so many different drafts and so many different versions of the movie that they had written, that there were scenes like that where you saw like, you know, Thanos on Titan before he when he was just living there, and he was getting the idea of like of the stones and seeing what was happening to his planet. There's like extended deleted scenes where they explore the relationship between Thanos and Gamora a little bit more.
Yeah,
well, and
I wish they would have included more of that and less of the like, here it is, and we see the Guardians of the Galaxy, and here, or not, maybe that's a bad example because Gamora is Thanos' daughter, but like, you know, I wish that the introductory scenes for everybody else was like not quite as long.
Okay.
Like, I don't need to see 12 minutes of Chris Evans being like, I no longer have a relationship with, or no. It was Tony being like, I no longer have a relationship with Captain.
Oh.
I'm like, I would rather get this like mileage in regarding Thanos and Gamora and like their relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
And also like, I would have liked it too, because like, I do like when you can see the not the humanity, but the like, well, I guess the humanity and the like logic behind villains. Cause I'm like, I think a villain
get on board.
Yeah, I'm like, a villain is more interesting to me when they're not just like bad and doing bad things because they feel like
a mustache
right? Like
twirler.
Yeah.
Right. Like on a moral alignment chart, like chaotic evil is like, I don't need to see a chaotic evil, but like, what's a neutral evil? What's the other one?
Chaotic.
Is it like like a positive evil or something like that?
Yeah,
or
it's neutral, chaotic, and
stable.
No, that's what
I know these are D&D. phrases. And I do agree. And I think
Lawful evil.
Lawful evil.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
lawful.
But lawful evil is really bad too. Maybe it's neutral. I don't know. Whatever. It's just more interesting when you see like when those characters are more fleshed out, because I think it's just more interesting when there's like being bad for the sake of being bad is like you're a monster. Yeah, of course I'm going to get on the side of like the Avengers, but it's like.
And speaking to that, it would have been really cool too. Like it's interesting, Kay, when you point out, oh, it's Thanos's movie. Then I'm like, I really would have loved to have seen it from Thanos's viewpoint.
More
and
of
then him experiencing the Avengers through more of his eyes. Right. Because then it's like I think really get to see what he means by cleaning up half the world.
I guess that is kind of the trick that they had to kind of like pull of just like they're actually telling Thanos' story, but it is called Avengers.
Right. Whereas
they have to bring in everyone.
They could have told Cruella or, whatever the other like
Maleficent.
Yeah. Like these other, like, these are the villains, but like, I haven't seen either of those movies, but like, to see more of, the origin story and like, or Joker, like why do people do the things that they do? How did they get to be the way that they are? Like, did Thanos originate from a family that's like, we're all bad? Or was he just like, hey, I'm seeing that like my planet is struggling. Here's what I think the solution is.
That is interesting. What if it had been Thanos Infinity War instead of Avengers Infinity War? Well, I will say that as we get through the MCU, there are permutations of these characters that do kind of come back in different forms, when we were introduced to the multiverse in Doctor Strange. So that does play a part in kind of evolving the perspective of some of these characters. So I will say, even though we didn't get that here, there are places in future parts of the MCU that you do get to kind of explore those different sides of those characters.
Great question, Kay. Have you ever watched this in light of the hour break? Like, have you ever tried watching this movie just from that hour forward? To see if it makes sense without the team up part? I mean, it was great. I had a lot of fun seeing all the threads come together. But like, like to Kim's point, like, did we need all that? Could we have just started the movie? Because because we've spent literally 3 phases getting to know these characters.
Yeah. I will say we did get to know them, but positioning them all so you all knew kind of like what their kind of like emotional point that they were at now that they were going to go into it. Because it does feel, and one of the things that they kept saying in the commentaries, that you wanted to make sure you're like tying the plot to the emotion of the characters. So if you don't know where they are emotionally, like the plot feels kind of just like, secondary. So I think that's why they did spend that whole first hour, bringing all the characters together. So you knew exactly where they were emotionally and how well they were emotionally vested in this war versus being like, this is just happening to them. And they're just being heroes because they're supposed to be heroes. Like, for example, you start off with, the Asgardians at the end of Thor Ragnarok, and immediately they're just like killing people off. Loki dead, Heimdall dead, half of Asgardians dead. And then, Thor gets shot out, into space after the whole ship is done. And then with his last dying breath, Heimdall, gets the Bifrost to transfer Bruce to back down to Earth, and then we get Doctor Strange, we get Stark, we get Banner, coming to them, asking them for help, warning them about Thanos, and then all of a sudden, here are the children of Thanos coming down, and then we have a big first fight, which
those are his
involves
children?
Spider-Man.
Yes,
children like Gamora was a child of Thanos.
And it really like creeped me out. like, yes, father,
Mhm.
Yes, my children, go do my bidding. I was like, this is weird.
You're a bad dad.
Well,
Yeah, very bad dad.
well, yeah, and obviously like abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, which is why once they
Classic
introduce,
codependent relationship.
yeah, and when they get to the Guardians and the Guardians run into Thor, and Thor is just like, Thanos is here, and you can see how much it affects Gamora. For me, Gamora and Zoe Saldana is the shining star of this movie. Like all of her like emotional reactions and her journey of having to kind of like sit on the information that she knows where the Soul Stone is, asking Quill to kill her if Thanos gets her. And for me, one of my favorite scenes is when they're at nowhere and, Thanos uses the Reality Stone to make Gamora think that she's killed him. And then that whole performance gets, for me, I've seen this movie a lot of times, and I believe that happens in the first hour of the movie. That's why I would never want to skip the first hour, because I love that scene so much. She is so great in that scene. And then she realizes it's like the Reality Stone. And then Quill actually, even though he's like really mad at her, he does shoot his gun when they're kind of at that standoff. And that line that Thanos has of like, I like him is so dark because it's literally him kind of like accepting Quill as kind of like
Her boyfriend
because he was willing to kill her for the mission. So I feel like, I've seen this movie so many times that I've kind of like delved into those little details and broken them down. But I wonder, like, when you guys seen it, Quincy, when you saw it for the first time or just rewatching it again, Kim, for this time, did those moments, like, did they hit you really hard, or were you just like, kind of, like, that's dark, like how much did it sit with you? Because those are the moments that sit with me. Even after watching this movie so many times.
I wish, because he does the bubbles thing twice, right? Where the thing, and I wish that was so funny and so specific and so silly. I wish, like, it almost felt like that was a callback to something in Gamora's childhood. And I feel like if we had seen that, like his connection with Bubbles, with Gamora, like that's how he used, made her feel better, was their special thing. And then when, like, that would have gutted me, right? Because it's so funny and it's so sweet. And I think too, like, usually, where did I cry, Kay? I cried in the second half somewhere.
I remember you got choked up when Bruce saw Nat again.
Oh yes, I definitely got teary-eyed. Yes. Like, again, I felt like it's interesting you say about the emotional stakes for Thanos, because I feel like we didn't get as much emotional stakes, and I wanted more of that. And I think, and this is so annoying, like in terms of being like a writer, like knowing, like, we're like, what was it, like a quarter of the movie in, and like Gamora has set up this, like, you must kill me. Like, I knew it wasn't gonna happen. Gamora wasn't gonna, and so like logically my brain was already ahead of the scene and was like, she's not gonna die. So I think that took me out of it.
You mean in that scene, you're like, she's not gonna die in this scene. Okay.
Yeah, like I knew she was great. She was really great. But as for I guess I couldn't invest myself as emotionally. And I wish there had been like a turn, like a surprise or a turn, that kind of, like, because you don't expect Bruce to run into Nat, but like that moment, you don't really see it coming. Okay. So you knew he was going to have to kill her. You kind of knew it wasn't going to happen because like structure, like the character couldn't die yet. So I just wish there had been like a turn or a reveal that like heightened the emotional moment in a way I hadn't thought of. And I think maybe that would have gutted me.
I guess that goes back to you guys both being like more of investment and background of Thanos. So those moments had more weight. So it wasn't just like, oh, her this abusive father that she's been talking about for a while.
Because if it's like, oh, this is my like estranged father, that like I have no context for like at what point did Gamora leave Thanos? Like at what like, and I've seen our Guardians again. This is like a long time ago. I will say that I think this is why they keep in that big hour-long intro, because I remember seeing this in like a lot of Avengers movies, is like that, like these long intros, because I think that they want people who have not seen other Avengers movies to be able to understand like a little bit of what's going on, or like, you know, I don't know anything about Doctor Strange, and like I get the gist of it. He's a time traveler or whatever. He has the time thing, and like he's like protecting time and whatever. But yeah, I just think that like strengthening that relationship will do so much for making the stakes higher, and you know, making us like, I don't know why I'm becoming like a fucking villain stan over here. Like, but I'm just like, I want to have the chance to get on board with you guys. You know, I want to have the chance to like understand like all of the characters, because I think that's so much more interesting. Even again, if I'm like, Thanos, I still think you're wrong, but like, oh, what if it is instead that like, you know, this isn't the case, but like Thanos takes in all of these like misfit children, right? And he's like, I will protect you in the ways that your family did not, and I will take you in and I'll teach you how to fight and all these things. And he's like giving them like a home and a place, like then that gives me stakes, right? I'm like, oh, I have some sort of like an empathy for an aspect of this person, even if not the entire person. And I like, you know, as an actor, like sometimes like I invent these things for people. Like I like to do that because I'm just like, I want to see more humanity out of the villains. But Kay, to answer your question, the part that really struck me this watch was when this is like much further into the movie, but like when Doctor Strange is like doing all of his like, he's like vibrating and everybody's like, what's this guy doing? And he's like, I went forward in time and there's like, you know, 400,000 different, you know, ways that this could turn out. And Tony's like, and how many do we win? And he's like, one. And I was like, oh my God, like that's just so powerful, I think, because it's like the odds can be like 1 to 400,000 or whatever. And sometimes it's still worth it to try to do it. And I found that to be very, I found that to be very powerful.
Interesting. Well, yeah, it's so interesting to hear people's different perspectives. And I guess that, yeah, for me, all of the pieces, since I've already broken them down so much, they seem to just click together so evenly. But now I am kind of thinking, yeah, what would have it been if it was Thanos Infinity War? I really like that that take though, Kay. And I think it fits in so well with what we have been seeing with like Maleficent and Cruella and Joker and like these other like stories that focus or like, even I'm not at all familiar with this, but like Harley Quinn has her own movie, right? Yeah. And that's to like further flesh out her story. And like, yeah, I think that's like such an interesting angle.
I also too, like with Thanos, especially with our current times in terms of like climate change and stuff, like it's a really interesting way to explore and look at that. Like if there was like, how do we look at resources and like with our own planet? It's an interesting way in. And you know, it will, you know, MCU does have that tendency to try to justify the villains. Like you were saying, Killmonger, his philosophy was definitely justified by his experience in Thor Ragnarok. Hela, she had a legitimate claim to the throne. So that was kind of she was driven by kind of a justified philosophy. So Thanos has his version of his philosophy and his point of view, just maybe perhaps seeing that in scenically and where that came from would have been more compelling in terms of, fleshing out his story and the emotional stakes for the people who are connected to him. Again, I will, though, it is Avengers Infinity War, so they do spend a lot of time on the Avengers. One of the things that
I heard in the commentary, that was one of the things they tried to take advantage of when they were doing this movie, was creating different partnerships and different couplings and groups of the heroes. So kind of their interactions were kind of like, fun and entertaining. They called it strange alchemy. So for example, like Doctor Strange meeting Tony, and they're kind of like both kind of like narcissists kind of going at it, and they're kind of like how their dynamic would be. Thor meeting Guardians, which was, is so kind of interesting because, the previous Thor movies had been so serious, but just Thor Ragnarok had been so different in its tone and it being so funny. So just
funny
freaking luck of the fact that like Guardians, which is more comedic, they intersect with Thor, and they end up having kind of like the same tone and that kind of like fun alchemy of like, I honestly love how like Thor, treats Rocket like so much better than the Guardians treat Rocket. Like he calls him Rabbit, but it's like kind of like in a loving way, whereas the Guardians like keep calling him like vermin and like raccoon and trash panda, and just like, Thor Rocket.
Actually,
and
trash
Groot.
panda is kind of cool.
Like Thor, Groot, and Rocket, like there's a whole adventure and whole team up movie that you could have, down the line. And then you get back, you get to like the establishment of Wanda and Vision and their whole relationship, which, as you guys know,
that's where I cried when Wanda when he died.
Oh, yes. Let's get to it. Wanda has to endure Vision's death twice. Such a, difficult experience, but so epically emotional.
The first death was like better, right? Like better than the second death, right?
Yeah, the second death was so horrible.
Fucked up.
Very
Oh my
brutal.
God.
Man. Mm-hmm.
I will say with that like it did feel, I feel like I would have felt more emotional stakes in that if we had not seen, because and that was so beautifully acted, and they're both so talented, and like it's such a powerful scene. But I did feel like it was a bit undercut by the fact that Gamora and Peter Quill, that's his name, right? Star-Lord.
Peter,
had also been like put up against each other as like, one of you have to kill the other one. Okay, we kind of already saw that before. So like, I would have rather have just seen it between Wanda and Vision.
Yeah.
Because
interesting.
The stakes were so much higher in that one of like, and you see this also very in a different form, right? When Doctor Strange is like decides to give the time stone to Thanos in exchange for not killing Tony.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is like, I mean, and Vision says this when he kills that big scary thing over Captain America, and he's like, we don't, like you said, Captain, like we don't trade a life for a life, kind of a thing. But
yeah, he does say that. Then speaking to that, Kim, because it's so astute, I then like I agree with you, because if we were going to see that kind of like, I don't know if it was like thematic or it was supposed to be a set piece, like just to have that heighten versus like it kind of it felt lateral, kind of is what you're saying, emotionally lateral versus like heightening in some way. If we were gonna,
I agree. I will say for me, it felt it just felt like layers that were, again, like there's so many different stories. So to me, it felt more like a reflection versus something that was needed to heighten. Because everything was like culminating, kind of like the culminating of the whole story into one was kind of, for me, the heightened versus the similar storylines of them. And that's actually something that they talked about in the commentary as well, about how, which, probably leads to the repetition of how, like, most of the previous stories, it's like, we're heroes. We're going to, of course, we're going to sacrifice ourselves because we're heroes and that's what we do. But in this movie specifically, they were being asked to not sacrifice themselves, but sacrifice someone else, like, so how willing are you to be a hero and with the cost being you sacrificing someone else's life. Even if it's by the person being like, yes, go ahead, sacrifice me. But you wanting to, how much are you willing to accept that? Especially if it's someone you love.
We talked about this in the watch along. I didn't think Thanos sacrificed Gamora. I know think he committed you don't think, sacrifice.
Yeah.
You don't get to sacrifice. You don't sacrifice someone and then get a prize after. Like, what?
But you don't think at any level he was just like, this hurts me. I think
he was, but I think that as we've discussed previously, I think that something got cut along the way that showed more personal connection between those two, to make it feel more realistic.
Yeah, I would say that. I would probably agree that
because he's a villain. Like, we're not supposed to like give this guy the benefit of the doubt.
Well, and also like if this was so if we're talking about like if like he sacrificed Gamora for the greater good, like the stone was for the greater good. It just felt like again we lost a little bit of the greater good. And it felt like more like this was just Thanos's interpretation of how the world should work. So it just felt very singular versus like him being essentially like a hero. It's that whole Tony, like Civil War thing. Like, what is the best way to achieve peace? Right. It's bigger than themselves. And with this current what we saw, it felt very much like him just deciding versus like, him being a hero in his own right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the argument too. Like Gamora is only one of the few characters that has the scene, space to be like, to question his mission. He's just like, the universe needs balance. And, if I hadn't done anything, those people would have, gone extinct. And she's like, you don't know that, you're crazy. It's not your choice to make. And he's like, I'm the only one that knows that. So finding out how this philosophy kind of got cultivated could have really helped with, creating that bridge and filling out those emotional stakes. We're talking so much about Thanos. I keep going back to like
this should be his movie.
This is his movie.
With you, Kay. Like
Thanos is Infinity War. I mean, it really makes sense because he's also driving most of the action.
No, and that's like Kay, like you were saying, like this is like a Thanos, like Thanos pushes the plot along. Everybody else is like also
trying to keep up.
Yeah, they're trying to like resist him the whole time.
Well, yeah, and they do their best. You have Captain America. Another favorite moment of mine is when he shows up in the train station to save Wanda and Vision. And just
somebody needs to get this man a headband. Okay, like we've got a lot like everybody who has hair in this movie needs a hair tie, get them a headband, hair flopping around your face. The stakes are too high, guys. Like,
I thought you meant for Vision to like hide his stuff.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Damn. Well, he's just walking around with a stone right here.
He has this whole Paul Bettany look too. He has that.
Like, come on.
And the whole thing with like Captain America and Black Widow and Falcon is like the idea is that they've been on the run and they've been kind of avoiding the authorities since Civil War. So that's kind of why they look kind of like shaggier and more stealth.
Black Widow could have given him a hair tie. She has one on her wrist.
And also, it looks like she has a very fresh haircut. So.
Yeah, her hair was very fresh. She was keeping up that look. And then you have the Guardians meeting Tony and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man on Titan. And then eventually you have the Captain America contingent going to Wakanda, meeting Black Panther and that being kind of the last stand for Earth. They're kind of like placed to make their final battle, which it was interesting to listen to the commentary because they were talking about how when they were doing screenings of the movie before it came out, how but before Black Panther came out, people would watch the movie, and once they got to Wakanda, people were like, they weren't really that reactive. But once after Black Panther had come out and that movie had done so well, whenever they did a screening and they showed Wakanda for the first time in Infinity War, the audience would go crazy because they were so excited to go back there and see these characters. So just I thought it was really great to have that as a place for them to go back, because you got to see again more Avengers, Winston Duke's M'Baku, Denai Guerrera's Okoye, as the head of Dora Milaje, and then Shuri, who they actually say in the commentary is the smartest person in the MCU, and she shows that when she kind of questions Banner's way of how they had put Vision together. And this like Okoye's awesome line of just like, M'Baku's like, oh, this will be the end of Wakanda. And then Okoye being like, then it will be the noblest ending in history. Like, okay, this is the point where like I got emotional.
Okay, cool.
Like, this is also around like when like, okay, first of all, have you guys both seen Shang-Chi?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind that. Anyway, when the like dog things are trying to like get through the barrier, right? And like, they're like, oh my gosh, they're going to go around if they go like, and Steve Rogers, like if they go to the back, they're going to be able to get to Vision. And then Chadwick wasn't, he's like, then we make sure that doesn't happen. And he says into his earpiece, like, on my mark, open this portion of the
barrier. Yeah.
And the person on the other side is like, did I hear you right? You said open it. And he's like, yes, open it. And he's like, Wakanda forever. And I was like, so emotional. Just like the journey that like Chadwick Boseman personally was going on at that time. And like, as we've talked about with the rest of these superheroes, like being willing to sacrifice like yourself and like, Chadwick or not Chadwick Boseman, but T'Challa is willing to put like himself, his soldiers, his country, like on the line for the greater good of the world. And like, and that's what we've seen with so many of these other, like characters too, right? Of like Vision being like, okay, I, like just like you need to get rid of me, because like if you get rid of me, this turns out to not be.
It becomes less about I'm willing to sacrifice myself, of course, because I'm the hero, but the obstacle becomes, are you willing to sacrifice me because you love me? And now you're having to play that part. Just awesome scene, the idea that when they were making the movie, they didn't know as much about how, what had gone into making Black Panther, because I don't think it hadn't come out yet when they're still making, Infinity War, and just all that depth and like character work that had been established in Black Panther had been just brought in organically by the actors who had been in the movie. So when they were making Infinity War and they were doing the chants and they were doing like just like the organized kind of like rituals before the battle, they were just like that wasn't something the Russos knew was a thing. So they're just like, oh yes, this is awesome. Like we didn't have to, use this, please. And it was all this. I think it just kind of goes to the fact that like this was such a collaboration and culmination of so many, of everyone's work that had come before that had to be kind of executed by these specific team of screenwriters and directors. Just a couple more moments that really were our faves of mine. Groot finally making the one choice the movie and using his own arm to create the handle. And when Thor comes down from in the Bifrost and joins the battle, that's another, like, I didn't see this movie in the theaters, and that's actually one of my biggest regrets, was not seeing this movie or Endgame in the theaters with a big crowd. I did see it in the theaters, I just didn't see it with a big crowd, but that is one of those moments that the crowd had reacted a lot big to, was Thor coming in and landing and like being like, bring me Thanos, and like running and like
I think
lightning.
I think more smarmy Groot for me, please.
More smarmy? You like Teen Groot?
I do. I liked Baby Groot too, but I really liked it when he was being a brat.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. And then for one of the other points I wanted to look, actually a couple more. Oh, another one. Nebula showing up on Titan and going after Thanos and like, you should have killed me. Where's Gamora? Where's Gamora? Just to see that the finish of the kind of like the extent of that arc of like her in the beginning of Guardians being kind of just like hating Gamora and wanted to kill her and them being so competitive to now her like fighting Thanos to figure out what he did to her always gets me. And then of course the ending, the Thanos wins, the Avengers lose. What? That is never that, like, when it comes to regular endings, that never happens. The villain isn't supposed to win. The heroes do, but they lost. People start going, going into the dust post snap.
They lost bad. It was a bad lose.
I mean, half of the world.
There were a couple of times where they almost, or a handful of times where they almost didn't lose. And I am personally in the midst right now of watching playoff baseball. And so I think I'm more attuned to seeing these things right now because of where I am mentally. But like, okay, so like in playoff baseball or any playoff sports, any sports in general, like there's several small moments that lead up to a win or a loss. Like it's very rarely like, oh, there's this one big thing. It's usually like a lot of like small mistakes that contribute to a win or a loss.
Life.
Yeah. And so like you see, right? Like it's like, okay, oh God, I got so annoyed with, I found Star-Lord to be way more annoying in this movie than he has been in previous movies.
That is a point of contention throughout the fandom of like, why Star-Lord? Why? If it wasn't like, for you.
It was so selfish, like, because that was an opportunity that they had to get the gauntlet off of Thanos. That was an opportunity. Also, like,
punch him after.
Just like
punch him after.
The other nuts thing is like right before that, like God, I can't think of his name. Drax is like he's like, I want to go kill Thanos, and God, there's so many names. And Star-Lord's like, no, just wait for a second. We got to get the stone first. He's like, I want to go. And he's like, no, just wait. And then he goes and then I'm like,
Ventus puts him to sleep. Yeah.
5 seconds later, like you do that 5 seconds later, there's that opportunity. There's when Doctor Strange gives up the time stone to save Tony. And then there's also then the big one right at the end, right? Where like, where Thanos says to Thor, he's like, you should have gone
for the head. Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, this is just like in playoff baseball. Cause like these players look back there like, and you can tell they're like, shit. Like I really should, I thought I was making the right move at the time for the team. And that was actually not the right move.
Wow.
Maybe they should listen more,
I mean, yeah.
Like, listen, it's a team sport.
I mean, you're in the heat of battle. Emotions are running strong. Things are happening.
We're humans. We're fallible. Well,
yeah.
Did T'Challa make a mistake? I don't think so.
That's true.
I feel like he listened.
Did he have enough time to make a mistake, or was it the mistake not to listen to Vision and allow he wanted just to kill him like way earlier instead of trying to again, it's that whole thing of like what they're all. I guess that's the interesting thing. It is Thanos' story. He's the one that's pushing the plot, but all of their little decisions actually contribute to him succeeding or not. Yeah. And there's so many of those decisions because there's so many.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you lose the World Series. Like, come on.
They lost the World Series. So that, brings us to the end of the Marvel portion. Did you get, I know we didn't discuss it, but there is the ending where Nick Fury and Maria Hill also dust up, and you see that the little beeper. Quincy, you didn't hear about? Don't know the significance of that yet, right? So we don't want to spoil that for you.
No.
Okay, so we're not going to spoil that for Quincy because she will figure out what that means in a little bit. But yeah, so that brings us to the end of the Marvel portion of of the podcast for today. So we're going to transition into our stretch and share. I believe, Quincy, it's your turn to do a stretch, or do you remember?
I don't know. I will stretch. Let's do. Oh, you know what's really nice? We can do like a nice hip stretch if you can get your legs out.
Open your legs underneath us and just kind of do this.
And then, hold on. Wait, this isn't working. Okay, is it working?
I found a way to.
It's working for me. Yeah. I'm doing kind of more of like a butterfly thing.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. Well, I'm getting a little echo. Do you guys hear that? No, it went away.
No.
My share for today is another TV show because I watch way too much TV. it's actually like a docuseries show called We're Here on HBO.
Yeah, We're Here.
Yeah. The second season just premiered last week, and talk about, crying every single episode, just like Queer Eye. It's one of those type of shows because basically it's, these three drag queens come into town, and it's usually like kind of like a small American town with fairly conservative values. And they put on a drag show that stars three people who are from that town. So yeah, it's all about, expanding people's minds and, acceptance and exposing people to, to their lifestyle and to their who they are and what they're all about. And it's great. And I highly recommend it. So that's my share. Kim, do you have a share for this week?
What kind of stuff should I share?
Just any little tidbit
you want.
You said you've been watching a lot of baseball. How's that going?
A lot of baseball. We're in the midst of playoff baseball. Major League Baseball. This is tonight is Game 2 of the National League Championship Series.
Wow, you sound so knowledgeable.
Well, over the last 5 years, I've learned a lot about baseball.
I love it whenever you talk about baseball because I remember like the first time John took you to one. And you were like, ooh, and now you're like so into it. I love it. I love
Yes. For people who don't know me personally, my partner is very into baseball. And on our second date, we actually watched the Cubs win the World Series. And I turned to him and I said, I hope this isn't a deal breaker, but I don't really like baseball. And then
now look where you are.
And like, isn't the Cubs winning? Like, I know.
That was a huge deal.
That's a huge thing, right?
Yeah,
I just love that at the biggest thing, you were like,
I was like, I
not
don't
for
care
me.
about this. Like, I was like, nah, I don't understand it. I don't care about it. But yes, then we ended up watching a lot of baseball. He was doing this thing where he went to all of the baseball stadiums. So I watched a lot of baseball. Now I'm super, super, super into it. And yeah. The Dodgers have advanced to the National League Championship Series. For those of you listening who might be Giants fans, I completely agree that the series ended on a really sour note because it was a check swing that was called as a strike. It shouldn't have been. So,
wow, Kim
I don't know what that means,
sports
but
commentator.
That's baseball news with Kim.
Cool.
Oh, smart.
Quincy, what's your share?
Mine is very basic. I just discovered anchovies on toast.
Ooh,
Like
very good.
canned anchovies?
Yeah, it's I had it on like a Caesar salad because instead of like doing croutons, I realized I don't really care for croutons. They just brought out a little toasted piece of bread and like had anchovies because Caesar salads have anchovy in the dressing. And then last night I had made like a charcuterie that board. And then I just made I got some anchovies with like toasted and I was like, oh, this is like a good alternative, I think, to also like a breakfast, right? Like it's just toast and like it's high in protein and like the salt and the butter tastes really good.
Does it stay fishy smelling in your place or in your kitchen after when you use anchovies?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm that sensitive to pungent smells, mostly because not because I'm Korean, but obviously that's not a blanket statement for all Koreans, right? But like, I don't know if I notice.
I eat boxed macaroni and cheese.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite boxed macaroni and cheese, Kim?
My favorite is just like the real deal, like the craft.
Blue
But
Craft,
I
Blue
will.
Craft box.
We buy the Annie's in bulk from Costco because it gives you the sense that it's a little bit better.
My friend also loves Kraft's mac and cheese, like boxed
It's
mac
so
and cheese is her
good.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
And just like, I don't know if it actually is filling, but like after you're done eating it, you're just like, I feel
Satisfied.
Yeah.
satisfied. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Cool. Well, that is the end of our stretch and share. Now we're going to transition into our makeup portion, which
Eye cream.
is a more of a skincare. Yeah, because we're talking about eye cream, serums, and sunscreen. That's why I don't have any makeup on today because we are talking more skincare stuff. So I wanted to talk about like what serums would be good for my skin. Though Quincy, you are wearing makeup today. Can
I
you
am wearing makeup for the first time in a long time on this eye.
can you tell us what you are wearing? I'm very
Yes.
interested.
I am wearing moisturizer, sunscreen, put on primer, BB cream. Kim, I am obsessed with this BB cream we got together.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is
Quincy
amazing.
recommended this BB cream and it's incredible.
Is
It's
BB cream
Misha.
a foundation?
It's how do I explain it? I always fuck it up. How do you describe BB cream?
But it's like for the face, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
it's a Korean product. Here, I don't want like the American version of it because they make it like American-y. It's like a lighter to me. I consider it like a lighter coverage foundation.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you guys talking about it, and I was just like, that you guys aren't calling it foundation, but it sounds like it's a foundation. So it's in place of a foundation.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It says if you have oily skin, you can use BB cream instead of BB cream has enough moisturizer in it to cover you.
And you don't need moisturizer.
I guess it just really depends on your skin. It's skincare infused makeup that conceals small blemishes or uneven tones while providing hydration, sun protection, or vitamins. So it just is like a boosted foundation. But the one that I recommended, Kim, was really sheer because she was looking for something really sheer. And I really enjoy it. So I have primer, concealer, BB cream, blush, eyeliner. I filled in my eyebrows, did my mascara, and then I set it with a setting powder.
Okay.
And
Is
blush.
did you do cat eye?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have
And then eyeshadow. And eyeshadow.
And did you do a crease line with 3 colors or just one color?
3 colors, yes. But this eyeshadow palette is very, 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 very subtle.
Okay. Yeah, it looks subtle, but I mean, it surprises me. It doesn't
Here,
look like you
I will
have 3
give you guys-
colors.
I'll give you guys a close up. This is a very subtle eyeshadow palette. In my 20s, when I used it, I was like, this is a stupid palette. Because like you couldn't see I wanted like a smoky, like I wanted like a dark dramatic eye.
Uh-huh.
And it's a very like neutral, warm tone. I can pop off and like grab it for you so you can look. But now as more of an adult, it's just very subtle and it gives just like, it makes my eyes pop here. I'll come closer.
She's getting closer so I can see. Okay. All right. Yeah. And so there are 3 colors there, you're saying.
Yes. So I have like a nudie, orangey, and then I have like a very soft, like light brown, and then a little bit of sheer.
Okay. And that was all buffed and diffused together.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So let's go ahead and just dive into the topic for today.
I did a lot of research on eye cream because I've been very like meh about eye cream lately. What about you, Kim? What are you interested in first?
I'm interested in learning about eye cream. I'm starting to get into skincare now that I'm out of my 20s. And I recently went to the dermatologist for the first time to get.
I remember you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good and exciting. And I wanted to ask, also about I've been getting into sunscreen and stuff like that. So I wanted to get his recommendations. And so that was all very helpful. And I think that I'm very lucky genetically I've not noticed fine lines yet, and I hadn't used really any serums or anything up to this point, but I want to continue to be preventative. in those.
What was the overall gist from your dermatologist?
Any like good tips or any insight?
It was very interesting. I didn't have a lot of time with him, but I did definitely want to ask about like what moisturizers he recommended, because I have not in the past been super good about wearing sunscreen all the time. And now I carry sunscreen with me in my purse, and I like try to be good about reapplying every 2 hours. I don't typically wear makeup like in the day, like in the day to day. So that makes it easier. But I did bring my sunscreen that I like to use.
Ooh.
This is the one that I really like. It's La Roche-Posay. You can just get it at Target. And this is the Melted Milk sunscreen, because I don't like a white cast, but also like oftentimes I notice that in my elbows, like when I sweat, like it'll get really like chalky in my elbows, especially the more you reapply throughout the day. So I like this one because it's really it's lightweight, but it's good coverage, I think.
So is that for your face and your body?
I use it on face and body, but I don't have super sensitive skin on my face. But what my dermatologist had recommended is he recommended, of course, like he was like, if you're interested in spending the money, Elta MD, which Quincy, I'm sure you've heard of, like it's like a very expensive, like moisturizer that's like SPF moisturizer that's like on every single list online of like dermatologist recommended SPF moisturizers. Like that's always on it. It's like $40 for a bottle. So I was like, I don't really want to spend that.
Why do you need a $40?
No, he also recommended this, which
CeraVe is good. Or I never know if it's CeraVe or CeraVe, but yeah, that's a good brand.
Yeah, I've heard it as CeraVe, but I actually
CeraVe. Mm-hmm.
But this is really nice, and I don't feel that it leaves a white cast. And
it's
then
really lightweight.
In a PM that I've been using in the PM.
Okay,
their eye cream came up.
The day one
research.
has SPF in it.
What's that? Okay.
The day one has sunscreen in it.
Yep, the day one has SPF 30 broad spectrum sunscreen, and then the nighttime one does not have.
The nighttime probably has more moisture, hydration properties. Probably, yeah. I'm guessing.
I didn't actually look at them. I was like, it's good. If the dermatologist says it's good, then it's good.
And it's really it's really affordable too.
Yeah, it's very affordable. Like currently, like everything,
no frills.
Yeah, everything that I'm using currently is like from the drugstore.
Where it's accessible. Cool. So Quincy, tell us about eye cream and serums. I don't know about eye cream or serums much either. But I do. I remember before you mentioned that serums are good for just doing stuff for your face overall on a regular basis. And I think it was the episode with Donzel. He said that like there's serums for everything. So like for me, if I wanted to smooth out my skin more so I have less like dark spots, there's a serum for that. Is that true?
Yeah, I did not know there's eye care. So within eye care, like your eye care, I just said it 3 times. There's eye serums, eye gel, and eye cream. And that goes from lightest to thickest. Huh. I stopped using eye cream because I guess if you use too much of a heavy cream, because your eye skin is very thin, it's very thin. And so I was using too thick of a cream, and I was getting either not a sty or mildew, which is like they're like bumps. They're like whiteheads without the white head part. And that's from like clogging your pore. And so I was like, I don't know if I really need extra support. So I've just been like making sure I moisturize more. It just depends on what you're looking for. For serums and gels, the consistency might be a little bit similar. If you tend to be like oily around the eyes, using a gel will help. The interesting thing that came up for me in my research was the biggest thing was like, if you have dark circles from like genetics, or staying up and partying or whatever, like lifestyle choices kept coming up,
being tired.
Yeah, like, so if you're tired, if you're not taking care of your skin because you're doing other things, that like eye creams aren't gonna reverse those things. That's like a lifestyle thing. But if you're
you just have to like make more responsible choices.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'll keep my dark circles.
Yeah. And then it was interesting because dark circles are just, I guess, the blood vessels in your eyes being more visible, which is insane.
So it's not necessarily like indicative of, like, we think of it as like, oh, you're tired or you're, whatever, hungover, but it could just be like, some people just have them. Yeah.
Like, so it's a genetic thing. So the whole thing for me that I was learning was it's just about just brightening it more, being preventative, and just helping your skin, give it your eye, the skin around your eye, like just a little bit more love.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
are you interested in looking for an eye cream or eye gel?
I
serum?
Not at this point. I think I'm more interested in serums that apply to the whole face. What about you, Kim? Are you into wanting to specifically focus on eye stuff?
I mean, I'm interested in starting eye cream, but I'm also interested in serum. I started using a vitamin C serum.
Nice.
That I brought. Again, it's La Roche-Posay.
What is that supposed to do?
So from what I read online, and I didn't get an opportunity to ask my dermatologist about this. I was asking him about a bunch of other stuff. But vitamin C serum helps with hydration, anti-aging, and it also, brightening. And I've also read online that it helps with this is not the right word, but like deflecting free radicals, which like can develop cancer. So I've been using it and my skin is so much more hydrated, I've noticed with it. And I like this one because there's some that are super expensive, like $60, $120 for like this size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think it's supposed to be in a darkened bottle like that.
Yeah.
Because with sun exposure, it'll like just disappear. So like when you wear it, you're supposed to wear it with sunscreen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I like this one too, because I read online that it can smell like bacon. So this one does it, but I'm interested in starting like a retinol serum or adding like hyaluronic acid.
Yeah, hyaluronic acid is great. I use one by The Ordinary. It's like $7 for a little bottle. That's like a huge hydration boost. Retinol's great because of like it helps with collagen and cellular production. And I'm sure this is with any skincare, but specifically for the eyes, you want something with caffeine or green tea in it because that will help. Well, that will help brighten everything out. And then like it increases like there's something called Matrix Sol 3000, and that helps with your collagen peptides. The retinol I mentioned helps with cell production. Vitamin C is a brightener, and then niacinamide.
I've read this word. I don't know how to say it either.
Yeah, I don't either.
I have read it.
Yeah. And it's a bit of both, like, so between vitamin A and vitamin C. So vitamin C is anti-aging, and then vitamin C is a brightening, and you get like the best of both worlds with it.
When you say brightening, do you mean like dealing with dark spots? Is that something I should be looking into, considering I have like spots that are darker and I want to try to create a more even tone throughout my face? Like I specifically have this dark, just kind of like center spot in my middle of my forehead. Is that something?
I don't know. Cause is that just a dark spot as far as your skin texture, or is it like is it from like acne? Is it scarring?
I think it's from acne. It's from me. I have gotten like the pimples like right there. And so I probably was like stabbing them and popping them.
In my thing, one of the things that women said is like straight up, if you have like dark circles, like under your eyes, like or like puffiness, like concealer is your best way to go besides like surgery or whatever, because these are like all creams and they'll have some temporary effects. So if you have like puffy eyes and you're trying to depuff, like the cream isn't going to suddenly magically make it go away.
Mm-hmm. And the serums are more, sounds like most of the serums are for hydration, not necessarily for
vitamins,
coloring.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just to help your skin feel good. And then so when you do apply makeup, it's like a smoother canvas.
Mm-hmm. So it's more about texture than what it looks like, the palette.
Yeah. Okay. And then the most other interesting thing that keeps popping up for me that's new is like anything fermented. Like fermented ingredients are really good because it helps draw out. Again, this is like science shit that I'm like, I don't know what this means, but it sounds legit. Like it says it pretty much what happens is it draws out the amino acids in your skin, which then helps your skin absorb everything. So at the end of the day, it's just about making sure your skin is hydrated and happy and healthy.
Okay. Well, so last week, or not the last episode, a few weeks ago, we had talked about toners. So I had gotten a thing called Thayer's Witch Hazel.
Yes.
With aloe vera.
Yes.
Yeah.
I recommended this.
You recommended that to me.
So today was the first time I used it. So after I got out of the shower, I put it on a cotton pad and put it over my face. And then I put lotion on top. I felt like moisturized, I guess, because I also felt very sweaty. I felt like, I felt like I could feel it on my face and the moisture was making me feel sweaty. I don't know.
Interesting.
Is that something?
I experience that sometimes, like when I've applied stuff out of the shower, and I'll like fan my face. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend, and Quincy, please jump in here because I'm not a skincare expert. But Quincy had also recommended the Thayer's to me, and I have just been pouring a little like nickel size of it into my hand and then like pressing it into my face.
Okay.
Instead of using the cotton swab. And then I try to let it dry, completely dry before I put like moisturizer or SPF on.
Okay. Like a few minutes or so?
Just until it feels like dry to the touch. And then in my experience, that has helped a lot with it, or like don't. And I also saw online, I'm not going to do this personally, but I saw online that you're not supposed to keep your skincare in your bathroom because the temperature changes can affect the efficacy of the skincare. Again, I'm not going to do this. I'm too lazy. It has to be right there.
I have some friends who have it's essentially a refrigerator. It's essentially a mini fridge that you can pay extra for to put your skincare in. Yeah. I don't do this either. All my skincare stuff is just in my bedroom, but I keep my sheet masks in storage in my fridge though. In my actual fridge. Smart. I don't have a separate fridge. I was like, I don't need a separate fridge, but yes, if you, because you keep it cold to make it last longer. But also, I guess it feels better because it's like soothing.
Right. But also, Kay, like if you applied it outside of your bathroom, because there's so much condensation in there anyway, that might help with like not feeling so.
Yeah. I will say though, too, like I had run out of face lotion like a few days ago. So the old bottle I had, I was really kind of like, whenever I was putting lotion on, it was very, very light because I didn't have much left. But today I had ordered the toner and more face lotion, and I had gotten them today so that I was able to use them. So I think maybe my skin just felt the exact kind of like the infusion of kind of moisture. It's just like, oh, you haven't even been moisturizing regularly a lot. Now you got this and Thayer's and the moisturizer. You're moist. You're really moist. So maybe that was it too. But yeah, I used it for the first time. I felt moist. And I was like, okay, we'll keep going. We'll see how it progresses over time. Any thematic connection you made to today's?
I had a really hard time with this one. I kept thinking and I could not come up with like a really clever one without it being too long.
Okay, well, mine isn't very clever. It's just the fact that we're talking about multiple skincare things. So, like Avengers Infinity War, we had multiple Avengers coming together to take care of the world and attempt to defeat Thanos. So
Mine was
my
a
thematic.
similar one where it was like, I was looking at these ingredients and it was like, you need a lot of things to get together. And I was, you need a lot of things.
You need
to get
the
together
Avengers
to
for
make
your
a good
face.
eye cream. Yeah.
You need a full hour for all of your skincare items to get together and then finally put them on your face.
Yeah. Also, if you guys want a list, I have a list of both affordable / splurge eye creams and like serums I can send over to you
I
guys.
would love that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm only going to buy off the affordable ones, but I love to look up the splurge ones and be like, I love to look up like expensive skincare. And I'm like, oh my God, how well does this work for it to be worth it to people? Like the La Mer stuff, like $125 for like 1 ounce.
I hear J-Lo rubs La Mer all over her body, and that's her secret.
Wow. That's a lot of La Mer. Is that expensive?
It's like this like little jar of like eye cream that's like over $100.
And it's just eye cream, and
I think so, right? That's what that is.
They have a lot of products. Yeah, they have a lot of products, but they're all like extremely expensive. Like so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. And if there's any specific serums, like I know you said they're not gonna change my skin, but if there are any, I don't know, anything that you can recommend in terms of like creating a more even skin tone, even though I have just a.
Yeah, when you say that, is it like you have like rough? Because I remember last time you said you had like a dry patch here.
You see how I have like these spots here? Mm-hmm. Like, is there something I can treat on that?
You know what I would say with that? You know what has helped my skincare game just was getting a facial.
Oh,
getting regular facials have helped. They are not pleasant, I will say. They are like my facialist. God bless her. She hand extracts every fucking pore on your face, like up into like your hairline.
What does that mean?
It's not fun. Oh, so she goes with like a little extraction tool. She steams your face so your pores open up, and she cleanses it. And then she gets like a huge magnifying glass and like extracts all the oil and dirt from your skin. And since then, that has been the biggest game changer in my skin.
Oh, okay.
A part of the spots, if it's really recurring, is just it's a pore, probably with a lot of oil and dirt stuck. And it just needs to get out.
Okay.
Kim's face is giving me.
This sounds bad. I don't like to get facials because I'm very ticklish, so I don't like to get my neck touched. But
your face is ticklish. That's so cute.
Yeah, my neck is ticklish.
She doesn't do your neck. It's just your entire face. I thought I was getting facials before I saw her, and I was like, oh, facials are so relaxing. And then I went to go see her, and I was like, I have a fucking disgustingly dirty face, and these are not fun.
Where is she finding this though?
She's literally like every single pore, like like yeah. So it could just be your face just needs like a deeper cleanse, so that like you can then start treating it.
Okay, I've also read in my like Googling of serums and stuff like that. And please don't take what I have to say.
Oh,
like,
me neither.
You know, like consult a professional.
Yeah, I'm not a dermatologist. I'm not a real makeup. I'm not a makeup artist.
Yeah, I'm not any of these. But I read online that so there's like retinol serums, but then there's also like retinoid, which it seems like it's a more concentrated tube. And excuse me, I've read online that can be helpful for like acne and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if that's something you might be interested in looking into, but also I would recommend, if you don't already see a dermatologist, like they could see about what's going on with your skin specifically and see like what because there might be like topical or internal like things that you can do to help to help with that.
Cool. Well, it's always good to know what other people just do in their regular lives as well. So that's why I always like to just be like, what do you guys do about this stuff?
I'm just really mindful of cleaning my face, like double cleansing, even though I hate it.
Even though
really
it gets
into
water
SPF.
everywhere.
Yeah.
SPF probably would help 2K, not with necessarily reducing any existing dark spots, but like with preventing
So to
spots from-
darken more.
Yeah, because like at least for me, like anytime I get like a zit or like I have a scar on my hand still from where I was drunk in college and I burned my hand on a toaster oven making food when I was drunk. And like it's like my skin just like hangs on to that scar tissue for a long time. So like it's helpful to wear the SPF so that it doesn't like, you know, make the scar.
Apparently I'm starting to get like little sunspots here too. And apparently it's because your skin gets more translucent. That's why you get sunspots as you get
Oh.
older.
And another thing to think about.
God.
Wear your SPF, kids, and stay hydrated and moisturize and keep your skin hydrated.
Go get a mole check once a year.
Yes.
Great advice and tips to help us wrap up the makeup portion of the podcast for today. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks, Kim, so much for joining us again. Is there anything you would like to plug or any social medias you want to guide people to follow you at, where they can find you?
Follow Marvel and Makeup on
Yeah.
wherever you get your social media. And if you're into watching Korean dramas, I co-host the Korean Drama Podcast, also on the Potluck Podcast Collective. And there are currently 3 seasons out: Boys Over Flowers, Secret Garden, and Itaewon Class. So if any of those are your jam and you like
That sounds
listening
cool.
to me, that's another place.
Great.
Follow Marvel and Makeup and wear your sunscreen.
Yes, and
Thanks for the
sunscreen.
plug, Kim.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like Kim said, if you'd like to reach out to us or find out more about Marvel Makeup, you can follow us at all social media at Marvel Makeup, or you can email us at marvelmakeuppod@gmail.com. Please rate and review, subscribe wherever you find your podcasts.
And please give us 5 stars so that our Asian moms will know why we now get triggered when they tell us to dust.
Because the end of Infinity War, they're all dust.
They
All of
turn
them.
dust.
So yeah, thanks everyone. Catch you next time on Marvel and Makeup. Marvel and Makeup is hosted and produced by Quincy Cho and Kay Kanapu. Quincy is an actor-writer based in Los Angeles, California. Kay is a writer-performer for Filipino AF and an alum of the CBS Diversity Sketch Showcase. You can follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Quincy Dinosaur and at Kay Kanapu.
The music for Marvel and Makeup was composed by Clarence Yap, and our artwork was designed by Patty Lin. You can find them on Instagram at Clarence_Yap and at pattylin.jpg. See our show notes for even more info.
Marvel and Makeup is also a member of the Potluck Podcast Collective, a network of Asian American hosted podcasts. Please check out our fellow Potluck pods by going to the website podcastpotluck.com.
Hey Brian, did you go to Saturday school as a kid?
I sure did. Did you?
Totally.
Well, at our podcast, Saturday School, we don't teach a language, but we pass along the culture that we do know.
And that's Asian American pop culture.
Ada's a journalist, and I'm a professor and film festival programmer.
We've watched a lot of great Asian American movies, and we want you to watch them too. Come listen to us as we look back at the pioneering films that have led us to today.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
that's fun,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks, Kim.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me.
I think it's really funny that you guys are just like, more Thanos.
More
background.
Thanos.
More Thanos. Come on, give us more of the backstory. He
Like-
deserves that. We deserves that.